We will start with Dr. Floros.
Thank you, sir, for inviting me, and good to see you again.
Thank you. EMAW.
There you go.
That stands for Every Man a Wildcat. I want to explain that to the others.
Sir, I would like to start by apologizing for my appearance here. It took me more than 20 hours to fly here from Manhattan, and my bag didn't make it, so my apologies for looking a little...
I think your attire is splendid, sir. Please proceed.
What I would like to do today is talk a little bit about the land-grant system and its importance to our research, agricultural research, and then very briefly talk a little bit about agricultural and food research and several components of its importance, the impact, and the long-lasting value of such research, so that you and your committee can actually continue to support the research and our efforts. And finally, I want to talk a little bit about infrastructure as well as workforce issues. And I'm going to start by briefly saying how important the land-grant system has been over 150 years now for this country and the well-being of the American citizens, particularly because we have the teaching, research, and extension components as part of that. I would like to stress that food security and political security are connected, and both of those are directly connected to food and agriculture innovation, and it's driven by agriculture and food research. In terms of ag research, what I would like to point out is that most of the investment that comes through USDA, the land-grant system, it's actually matched 1-to-1, in some cases 7 or 8-to-1 by other investments from state governments, local governments, and other sources as well. So we will appreciate continue that investment because not only it's supplemented by other sources, but also because its impact has been long-lasting. You heard earlier from USDA that the return is about 20-to-1, and I'm sorry that the chairman is not here, but that return in the state of Kansas is actually 33.6-to-1. So the return of agricultural research is very, very high, and you will be pressed to find anything higher than that. I also would like to say that AFRI should be really brought up to its appropriations of $700 million because we have a lot of challenges coming up, as you all know. One of the points I wanted to stress has to do with food science and technology-related research. We put some emphasis on agriculture, but we're not putting as much emphasis on food science and food processing and manufacturing. Food manufacturing per se, it's almost 15% of American manufacturing, and we're not really emphasizing much of that in our portfolio of investments. It used to be that half of every dollar goes to the farmer and the consumer, but today, only probably 1 out of 7 dollars goes to the farmer and the consumer. The rest, $6, are actually added value, and that is where we need to capture. We have divested from this area, and as a result, I think the American manufacturing segment of food and agriculture has suffered, and innovation is now coming from elsewhere in the world because of that. I also would like to say a few words about international research in food and agriculture. USAID invests a lot of money in that. We do a lot of work in that. Much of what we do benefits other countries out there in the world, but most of the information we generate comes back to the U.S. to help our own farmers, our own ranchers, our own industry to improve and get better. A couple of things about infrastructure. There was a study that's been done very recently. Throughout the country, food and agricultural colleges are suffering from really negligence in terms of our buildings and maintenance. There was a study that shows that about $8.4 billion are needed to just bring the infrastructure to today. Just at K-State alone, we just did a study and shows $550 million worth of needs right now to our own infrastructure. Finally, I want to put a couple of comments about capacity funding, and you all know what that is, and USDA talked a little bit about that. Just in the last 50 or so years, the improvement of the U.S. agriculture has been about 2.5 times when you look at productivity compared to where we were 50 years ago. Capacity funding had a lot to do with that. Everybody talks about the green revolution. We're going to have to actually have a second green revolution if we are to meet the needs of a growing world. And it's not just the growth in population, it's also the growth in middle class. It's the diversity of the population. The food system, the global food system, needs to respond to all of those. And for that, I think we need to continue to invest in capacity funding as well as in NIFA and AFRI. The final point I wanted to make is training the next generation. And it's critical that we find ways to train more people in agriculture and in food. USDA study shows that we only provide maybe a little more than half of the workforce that we need today. And we will need more tomorrow. So with that, I know I've overstated my time. I would like to assure the committee that every dollar we invest in food and agricultural research, it will be worthwhile spent, and we will see very long-term return and huge impact because of that. Thank you so much for giving